Hey Dan, how's it going? All right. Get started in just a second here. $5 minutes late, I know. Yeah, we had some technical issues there. Sorry, Thak. How's it going, Koala? How we feeling, chat? Everyone hear me just fine? I'll get started. Richard says all good. Dan's been chopped up. Looking forward to the alpha. I don't know if it's alpha, but it'll be something. All right, let's get started, friends. And here we go.
2, 1, 0.
What an intro. Welcome everyone to the Tools of the Trade live stream. I'm your host, Captain Cole. I'm joined by my co-host Trip, also known as Crypto ISO on Crypto Twitter. Before we get started, we got an awesome episode, a lot of analysis, a lot of cool stuff to talk about in the markets. But with all of our incredible viewers, do me a favor, smash that like button, make us look good for the YouTube algo. Also want to take a second to say thank you to our sponsor, Phemex, one of the only non-KYC derivatives exchanges left in crypto. Click the link in the description below to get up to $6,000 in sign-up bonus. And now the last thing I'll say before we get started, that nothing we say here on the Tools of Trade live stream is meant to be considered financial advice. We are not financial advisors. This information is for educational purposes only. So now that I'm done chilling, Trip, how's it going, my man? Got a little lag there for a sec. How's it going, brother?
It's good, but looks like we're running through some technical difficulties here.
Always something. It's how it has to be sometimes. Yeah, lots of interesting stuff to talk about today. First of all, I guess before we just hop into things, yeah, let's talk about the general macro backdrop. I feel like giving people a little bit of a backdrop to how things have been playing out lately will kind of set the stage before we get into kind of BTC and ETH and move on from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the gist of it is like the traditional markets think that the Fed has kind of showed their hand and people are buying in front of it. And so I think that's why we've seen risk continue to go up. Crypto has been this interesting like range up here where there's kind of trying to decide like which direction it's going to go. And for the most part, this has been largely liquidity games. It's actually been a really interesting environment to trade. Just volatilities kind of all around altcoins. I mean, even in BTC and ETH. So for me, you know, there's been a lot of focus on what's the dollar going to do. You can see that kind of in Twitter and whatnot. And then you kind of look at the S&P and, you know, what's the NASDAQ doing? And like the reality is like I've kind of just put all of that aside and just gotten back to what I really like to do in this environment, in just in and out as quick as you can and just trade literally like all the liquidations up and down, because the moves in some of these things are 10-12%, and like, you know, when you find exhaustion points or offsides players to exploit them, which the market is doing, typically happens consolidating or in a range or indecision. Until that's going to change, I don't think there's really any reason to discontinue that strategy.
Agreed. I think, you know, playing level to level with the liquidity has been pretty good lately, especially now more than ever. You know, we've been in a range, what, like 2 or 3 weeks now. Everyone's getting chopped up left and right, and I don't think that's actually going to change for the rest of the week. But yeah, you know, I think liquidity is king right now, and knowing where everyone's positioned gives you an edge, at least in understanding where participants are positioned and how market might turn and trade against them. So yeah, without further ado, let's kind of jump into the charts here. I'm going to throw up my screen, what I've just been looking at the past couple of minutes here. Bitcoin, right? I think that's the elephant in the room everyone wants to look at, right? So drew this little meme trend line, doesn't mean shit though. When I look at kind of the last day of price action, we had a strong monthly close. So the first thing I'm going to do to kind of, before we get into the analysis, is mark out this monthly open, right? So it's what, 28,475, 28,475, cool. Then we go to the daily real fast. Let's mark out the range from yesterday. So we have 28,525, and the low was 27,227. Cool. So the reason I do this is the Monday range tends to set the trading range for the most of the week. So, when you look at what we can expect to happen from here on out, we're going to use this as our guide, right? So I'll go to the hourly real quick. This is the range we traded in. This is our monthly open. Mark that real quick. But really, all I expect us to do for most of this week is trade within this range, right? So 28.5 and 27.2. Those are the two levels that the high and the low. The mid's probably somewhere like 27.8. So, if I'm looking at the rest of this week and how I'm looking to trade, I really don't want to diddle in the middle. What do I mean by that, right? So we just had two large moves, right? 28.5 yesterday, and then the Binance FUD took us right down to 27.2. I don't want to diddle here. So all this is crab market to me. I don't really feel like taking low EV trades unless liquidity suggests a run one way or the other. So the first thing I'll do is I'll mark out these levels. So 28.5, if we get above here, I'll set an alert, see how we trade. And if we get below here, I'll set an alert and we'll see how we trade. Looking at the way the price structure has been the last several weeks, right? So we've been in this range for, let's see, about 16 days, almost 3 weeks. And if I'm being honest, right? So we have liquidity at 29.2, and we'll share Hyblock in a sec. And we have liquidity here at 26.5. So these two extremities of the range outside the weekly open, outside the Monday range, are kind of where I'm looking to get involved, right? So for example, price is at 28.25. If we push up above here and then we flip the monthly open and the Monday high, we're probably going to trade up here. Conversely, if we make our way down and we sweep this 27.2 level, and we come back into this previous weekly range, this is where I want to get involved to the long side. So, let's pivot for a second and look at Hyblock, because that to me is more interesting, right? So since we've been in a range, we really want to focus on liquidity because liquidity is king in this market and when price is ranging. So the first thing I notice here, 225 shorts, 156 longs. The delta is currently red, and it would appear that we've been pushing up most of the day to day, especially during Legacy Open. But when I look at here, I see ripe liquidity, right? So where's liquidity? 28.3 all the way up to potentially 29.5. Those are like my upper ends of the range, and on the downside, 27.2, 27.1, all the way down to 26.5, which lines up with the two ranges we just outlined. So just looking at this chart bluntly, I see this is liquidity, right? It's higher. Right now, I'm leaning towards longs just because there's so much liquidity ripe here that we want to take care of. Whether we go all the way up to 29.5 and sweep that, high that we put in last week, I don't know. But what I do know is that there's definitely a lot of liquidity to be had. So given that the delta is red and the pain trade's probably to the upside now, especially after the Binance FUD got absorbed, I'm looking to get long. So where would I look to get long? Well, I've seen a lot of greens pile in this whole way up. They got taken out. Shorts came in, they got taken out. Longs came in, longs came in. So right here, I still see licks. And if we're going to go back to the chart real quick, I want to see a higher low put in, right? So let's just pretend 27.2 was the ultimate entry. If you bought the Binance FUD, well, where do I get involved? I want a higher low. So where's my higher low going to be? The first thing I'm looking at here is probably this area needs to be defended, this open of like 27.5, 27.6. But can we first of all deviate above the Monday high, come back under the monthly open, and then come here? Absolutely. So that'd be the first thing I'm looking at, some sort of higher low above 27.6. And then conversely, you know, when we looked at Hyblock just a second ago, we see that there's still licks below 28K, right? So we never really went too far below 28K this afternoon. But if we do, I kind of see some licks all the way down to 27,586, which is again our higher low. So I want to see a sweep of this 20. Let's share this. I want to see a sweep of this level, this 28K level essentially, before I get involved alongside. I'm not going to FOMO long here just because it's very low risk reward for me to, let's say, you know, for example, if I were going to take a long trade, set my stop here like a retail trader, and maybe it works, you know, you never know. And then what am I targeting? Maybe the liquidity up to 28.7. If I'm lucky, I get to 29.2. I just don't see the payoff right now to trade BTC in that manner. Trip, what are your thoughts right now, I guess, on Bitcoin before we move on to ETH and some other alts?
So like it's kind of in the same pattern almost every time when highs get run and then it goes right back down. And so it's just liquidity chop at this point. You know, for if I'm looking at like specific actual like exhaustion indicators, there's 2 TD9 sells on the 3-day for both BTC and ETH, which are interesting confluence.
Can you share that screen real quick just so viewers can get a peek at it?
Because we had to switch so quickly at the beginning of the stream, like trying to share something right now isn't like make my computer crash. I feel like. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Give it a go. Yeah. Just looking at the cloud here, and
let me see if you can see this. Okay, so let me try to share it. One second. Yeah, for people who don't know, I mean, we talked about TD last time. So, but for trading view purposes, let me see if I can do this. The annoying part is because trading views a tab, so you can't really share it, actually. But 1 second. Here.
All good. There we go.
Can you see it?
Just about. You guys see that okay?
So this is the 3-day 9. The rule is if it trades above the 6, then it's valid. So this will close on Friday.
Yeah, it looks a little blurry, unfortunately.
You should be able to pull it up if you have Glass on your thing. Glass is the trading view indicator.
All right, let me see if I can pull it up. 1 second, guys. Glass indicator.
TD sequential.
Oh, I think it's this one, right? No, it's the regular one. All right, I will take over here. Give me 1 second, friends. Let's see if we can find this bad boy. Indicators. Glass TD9. Sequential by Glass. Right there, right? There we go. Okay. And you said it was on the 3-day?
Yeah. 3-day.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's actually. So the 3-day TD sell 9, what does that kind of entail, Trip, just so people can get a better understanding?
Can you hear me?
I hear you, but your screen got frozen there.
That's fine. I'm going to, whatever. So TD9 basically is like overbought, oversold. So a 9 is an indication of overbought, oversold. I mean, there's going to be a daily 9 on ETH tomorrow. So in theory, it's an exhaustion point by basically the buyers up here. And the higher time frame signals obviously have more power bigger reversals. So you're on a 3-day 9 right now, and you're on BTC as well. So exhaustion point coming on buyers. Now, the candle closes on Friday, so it's not like shorted immediately, but there is a T9 on Ethereum tomorrow on the daily.
I think your audio is cutting in and out there, brother. Try rejoining and resetting up, and I'll kind of steer the ship for the time being. All right. While Trip's getting himself set up, I guess I'll kind of take over, friends. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Doesn't usually happen, but we're all only human and fallible. But let's get back to the chart at hand for a second. Bitcoin analysis 101, right? So I see a range. I'm not going to use Ichimoku. That's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to turn Ichimoku off, because when price range bound, Ichimoku is no good because it's a trending indicator and we are in a range bound market. We've been in this range for 17 days now. If I'm going to trade based on Ichimoku, I'm going to get chopped up a lot. So we're in a range. Okay. We have that, monthly levels marked out, or Monday high, Monday levels. I don't like this higher low right here. And the reason why is because it's an unconfirmed higher low. So if I were to, take a long position here, like we talked about just before, and I put my stop here and I'm targeting a sweep of that Monday high, or to, whatever the liquidity is ripe for, this is an unconfirmed low. So to me, there's very little risk reward to diddling in the middle. So I don't really want to come in there. Now, when I look at things from a different avenue and I see that, we just had a large move up during TradFi Open yesterday, and then a large move down based on Kobe's hash tweet for CZ getting an Interpol notice. What I basically think now is we're going to crab. We're going to chop around for the time being. I don't even think we're necessarily going to break out here just now. I know people are drawing these trend lines, right, from like this high, right? And it's like, okay, well, from this high. And they're saying, okay, well, we just broke out of it. Are we flipping here? Are we going to go up? In my mind, it's just not likely. So what I'm really expecting, at least until Thursday, so the next 2-3 days, we're going to chop around. We'll come up to here. We'll come back down here. We'll come up to here. And we're just going to crab market where everyone just is like, what the fuck's going on? Why are my breakout longs not working? Why are my top shorts not holding? We're just in a different zone at this point in time. So wait, let's see if we can get Trip back on. Trip, you there, brother? Yep.
Yeah.
You fine.
All right. Yeah, looks like McDonald's Wi-Fi, because I'm not a tech guy. Right? I usually run this on a laptop video, and then my desktop has all my screens. So we can now actually look at some of the screens, hopefully, where Hyblock and these things will show up.
We see Hyblock on your side.
And now I have to reconnect all my things, but you can keep going. But I'm back here, so just to let you know that.
Okay, cool. When you're ready, you let me know. I'll keep going with our little screen here. Yeah, so getting back to it, guys, don't diddle in the middle. MK Ultra says never come in the middle unless you're willing to live with it. Yeah, exactly. Something like that, right? So, we're in this middle range. I don't really want to do business here just because it's low probability. If you look at Twitter, I see everyone looking to long right here, waiting for this, trend line breakout, whatever the case may be. But can we just go like this, deviate back under, and then come all the way down here? High probability in my mind. If I was looking to get long, what I'm really waiting for, and the alerts I'm going to set triggers for, is a sweep of this Monday low, right? So I want to see us come back below this low. Like, I know we're looking for a higher low, and if we do put in a higher low here of around 27.6, and I see us moving up from there and approaching the Monday high, then I might get involved with a stop below there. But I'm not going to blindly bid this level, just because I feel like, in all seriousness, there's liquidity that's ripe to go underneath it. So in my mind, what I'm looking for is a sweep of Monday low. Maybe it comes all the way down to the previous week low, maybe not. But sweep of the Monday low, a tap to confirm that it's support, and this is where I want to get long. If I'm not bidding here, I'm bidding here. Those are the areas I really want to get long on. Other than that, yeah, go ahead.
So the interesting thing about the market right now, and if you look at how BTC and ETH trade, one leads, one doesn't, one sells off.
Yes.
So the delta on BTC is red, yet there's 4.6 billion in longs on Ethereum, right? So you're I haven't looked at ETH BTC, but this is bearish. Long, 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 long. These are all long.
Top. Yep.
Yeah. And like, look at this, like 1841, big cluster. I mean, we're definitely going to take this. Like, the ratio is 322 longs to 100 shorts. So and this is how literally I've been trading altcoins and these types of setups, is like you get an exhaustion point here. So ETH to me is more bearish than Bitcoin, because like, and it's interesting to see this because
It had its move, right? That's the whole point. Like whenever
right.
they try to drag up Bitcoin by pumping ETH and ETH BTC going up, it never ends well, and that's something I've always known. Whenever they try to drag one of the largest market participants or largest assets up with another asset, and it's an anemic move for Bitcoin, it's not sustainable. That rally was really just liquidating all the top shorters on ETH, and the fact that we have the Shanghai coming up in a week or so or something like that. To me, that's just saying that liquidity is being sourced for if Bitcoin breaks down from this range. ETH's going to have a much more catastrophic drop, and we could talk about ETH BTC in a sec. But yeah, go on, Trip, with the BTC Hyblock chart.
So then you look at Bitcoin and you're like, all right, well, there's 3.2 billion in shorts, and there's 225 to 156. It's not like crazy, but
it's not skewed off sides one way or another. It is more short prone. We can sweep some liquidity, but I'm not necessarily too bullish that we're going to get a range expansion, right?
Yeah, but it's also like they don't both go up at the same time, because this market is just literally flip-flopping around where the best opportunity is to take out basically shorts and longs on the extreme sides of liquidity. So that's why, like, to be so definitive about bull run, bear run, like there's nothing definitive really.
No, we're in a range, and that's like the whole point to get in mind. Like we're range bound right now, and to assume range expansion, that's never when it's rare. Sorry, I don't want to say never, but it's when people are assuming range expansion is rarely when range expansion actually occurs, right? So we can chop around this range, guys, for at least another 4 weeks, at least in my opinion, right? So if we go back to the 2019 echo bubble, Trip, if you want to just take the weekly view for a sec, and then just scroll back to 2019, just to give viewers like an understanding of what actually happened when we definitively broke out of that range. We literally consolidated. I think it was for like 6 or 7 weeks above 4K to like the 5 to 6K range before we actually made the move. I think it was after that TD9, there was that 4 or 5 candles.
This one?
No, left all the way. Right after the 4K breakout from the bottom at 3K.
Oh, here.
Yeah, exactly, 2, right
3.
there.
So we have 3 weeklies right now.
Okay, so
over here, and like this is like pretty significant resistance, right? If you just look at like where 32 down to 17, like, okay, so we did, I don't know, I guess count as wick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks here. So does it make sense for price to come down lower to really test the buyers? Because like this stuff up here, look, it can break out, but like it just seems like it's getting a little tired.
Agreed.
So it, like, I don't know, nothing's really comparable to up here, but always these points of like distribution, they're not supposed to be that clear. Like it's very confusing up here. And so, ETH, similar instance, like, okay, like here's your resistance block, right? Like, do I think things can come like all the way down here and really rinse people? Yeah, I do. Do I know when it's going to happen? No. Where would that put BTC? Like, maybe you're coming down to like really test
23, 24, dude.
Yeah, that zone. Would it be healthy? Yeah, probably. Because I feel like if you just run this from here, given liquidity and I don't know, just some of the higher time frame signals I'm looking at, I mean, is the S&P coming into resistance here? Can this pull back? Yeah, everyone's super bearish on the dollar, and typically when this happens, it starts to move up. It hasn't yet, but I don't know. I think it's a tricky distribution up here for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm looking at the 3-day 9s. ETH obviously is extended on the long on the long side right now. BTC's not, so we have this flip flop back and forth between them as people trade it. And there's some interesting, altcoin deltas that obviously we've been looking at, Lido being one of them. So yeah, I don't have a strong view and direction of breakout or breakdown really at any point this time, because we haven't violated any levels to where you can say to yourself, it's definitively going to go up or break down, right?
Yeah, but on the topic of ETH BTC, right? Someone's saying weekly resistance SR flip around 6-7. Yeah, there's the week or the 4-hour edge to edge, which you guys hear me talk about a lot, right? So that target is like 678. We had that move down out of the cloud, came back into it, chopped, and now we're kind of pushing up into it. But ETH BTC is looking tired at this point. It does have probably another, call it 2% move, which could translate to some Bitcoin or Ethereum strength when we come actually back down to it. If Bitcoin starts going down, ETH might show some strength on the way down. But when they try to drag the market up with ETH, all that tells me is that Bitcoin is tired. This range does feel very distributive. And if I show you guys this chart, try not to get too upset. But when I look at this, this is your classic Wyckoff distribution model, right? And it's like, okay, this might evoke some emotion. This is obviously not the top. What are you fucking talking about? It's all good. Whatever you want to say about it is fine. But I just like to look at this to get a gauge for what would potentially happen. And I shared this in the Tools of Trade Telegram channel, which again, guys, if you're not in, it's in the description below. It's a free Telegram channel where Trip and I basically share all our thoughts and trades in real time. But neither here nor there, are we going to get this upthrust after distribution? Was this the upthrust at 29K and we just basically came back down immediately off that next hour? But all I'm seeing here is that, are we going to sweep 29.2K for a UTAD? Or are we going to go with, that other schematic where we just come in for a lower high somewhere above? So flipping back to that Bitcoin liquidity chart, if we're looking at Hyblock, there is liquidity to be had above 28.6. Let's see here if we zoom in. But again, I'm seeing all these green buyers come in, and I hate to see that on a move up, because that just tells me it's setting the bait for longs. And if prices do come back down, it's going to be a nasty unwind. But like just looking here, I see a lot of liquidity. So the biggest one that sticks out to me is 28.7K. There's about 170 mil there. And then all this gets darker from the previous licks here. But to me, 28.7K in relation to, 28K that we had here, that to me sets the stage for a lower high. So when I look at things objectively, and I try to be very objective in my trading, at least as much as possible, and try to not have a bias, right? You guys see me flip-flop 100 times on Twitter, and the reason being is because I'm just trying to trade level to level. I have a core swing BTC short right now, but that's really the only core position I'm holding, just because I really believe that, if this is distribution and we're going to go back to, that 30K level or that 24K level, and I pull up Ichimoku Cloud, there's still, there's still, a point where we're in this range, we distribute down, we come down here, maybe even down to the Kijun, and then maybe try again for 31K. So it's really not as clear as I'd like it to be. My gut is leaning bearish, just because when I saw the price action right here, that to me was indicative of distribution, right? This giant hourly candle that just broke out from this bull bag, immediately slapped back, came up for a lower high, made a lower low, lower high, lower low. That's like a third drive down, right? And then we came back into it. We swept the liquidity, the lower high. This was like a poor lower high, in my opinion. We swept that liquidity nice and easy right here, right? We swept it right here. And then again, we've been trickling down, came up for a lower high here. That is now the Monday high. Binance FUD, lower high again. Is this a lower high? So I still believe, and I feel pretty strongly that this is distribution. And I don't really want to get involved in the long side in the upper end of this range, right? So just clear this for a sec. If I'm looking at things objectively, this is the range from 29.2 to 26.7. The mid range is like 27.7. I don't want to be a buyer up here. I genuinely don't. If I think we're going to get range expansion, I'd much rather buy above 30K, if I'm being quite frank, than buy here at 28.2 with the higher likelihood to get rinsed. if I did want to get long, again, I'm waiting for this 27.2 sweep, come back under, flip it, and then let's get long. Let's go all the way to 29.2 if we get this sweep. That's to me is the area, right? This 26.8K, we come back into this consolidation we had here. We retest it. We show there's support, come back in. If I miss that long, I'm getting long here. And I'm probably targeting at least the lower high at 28.7 that we just talked about with the liquidity, but maybe even the high sweep of 29.2. Maybe we get that UTED. I don't know. But, let's pivot to ETH for a second. ETH has been kind of the dominant player the last 48 hours. And to me, all it really looks like is, again, what is this from? Oh, that's my little edge-to-edge trade. Yeah, so let me talk about that real quick. So the edge-to-edge on ETH, where I originally took that, 14K, 1,400 long was because, again, we have an edge-to-edge of 2,200. This looks like it's trending up, but, ISO just talked to us about that TD9. So this closes in 2.5 days. A lot can happen between now and then, but, if this trends up, maybe even makes a higher high here, 19 something, and it closes at TD9, I would warn caution for taking profits, but neither here nor there. We zoom in for a sec. We turn Ichimoku off because we're in a range. This to me, I mean, just structurally, Trip, we were just talking about, doesn't look very similar to 27 or to 67K. This to me looks like a very, this does, right? This looks like a very toppy structure. Maybe we sweep the liquidity above 1892, but this to me looks very toppish. I'm not in the business of calling tops and bottoms. Doesn't mean much. I like to get confirmation for getting in a trade, but to say I'm a buyer at the top end of the range, some people think this is range expansion, but it remains to be seen in my mind. I don't see this as range expansion. If it was, I feel like we would have had much stronger price action. The fact that we 17 days here, you could say that this 3% candle from 1813 to 1875 was the range breakout, but if I turn on the volume, it seems kind of anemic, and it's met by stronger selling than buying. So in my mind, this is really just a deviation potentially, right? Our friend SC's favorite word. And if price comes back under here, I'm smacking it back down, and I'm probably targeting the range low. But yeah, Trip, what are your thoughts on ETH, I guess, from a liquidity standpoint?
Well, I mean, liquidity alone, it's bearish because you can liquidate 4 billion in longs before the delta flips. If we look at, like, just for example, Bitcoin versus ES, like up here was kind of where we topped on a 9 and we've been going down, right? So the correlation to traditional markets is not necessarily as prevalent as it was. I haven't looked at the ETH ES pair. But to me, like, did ETH lead? Yes. Is it going to lead the way down with the liquidity that it's going to probably sweep on those longs? Unclear, because it's just been back and forth with Bitcoin. For ETH, you have a 9 tomorrow on the daily, right? So then you have like confluence around, like, okay, if it does 1920 and prints the 9, or like, you sit here and you print a 9, then you have a sell signal, and then you have Friday, you get the 3-day close.
Yep.
I don't know. I guess I'm just very hesitant of longing anything. I've been bearish. I've been just trading Lido liquidity. Like, I'm short this thing right now. I'm sure there's some other alts, but yeah, I'm leaning down for the near term based on ETH liquidity. Can Bitcoin squeeze? Yeah, but with ETH leading the move, and then if it sells off, like, Bitcoin can easily do that move that you're talking about, taking that liquidity lower before moving up, right? So I don't know. I'm very much just watching, like, how the positioning is going on, more so than like it's going to break out or break down. Short.
Agreed. I think you need to just trade the range, right? And if I'm just looking at the ETH liquidity real quick, just harping on it. So there's still untapped, like, there's like 225 million longs below 1840, and as well as below 1800. So to me, the way I see things playing out is we just talked about that, that bearish structure. We probably sweep the high. We go up to 1937, right? That's where the most liquidity is. And then I can see us just unraveling to the downside. So if Bitcoin's being held where it's at right now, but ETH ends up sweeping the liquidity here, right? So if we come up to 1837 and then come back down, and if Bitcoin on this move up is like barely trading above 28.6, like it swept that liquidity we talked about up to 28.7, that to me is like a pretty strong bearish signal that we're probably going to see an unwind. This is just a deviation right here, and again, probably going to be targeting the range lows. This is an interesting order block, DBS zone is stripping, I like to call it. That never really got tapped, right? And I'll show the comparison in just a second. So, we talk about DBS zones and tools of the trade. It's really just another word for order block. It means demand, buyers, support. What is it? So it's a low volume consolidation candle before expansion upwards and a break in market structure. So this is the high. This was the consolidation, low volume, broke out, made a higher high. So this level from 1687, call it, down to 1653 is an untested support level, right? So we came into it here just barely, but we didn't really tap into it. So that to me was like a finite sweep. If I were to punt a short on the squeeze of the ETH long liquidity at 1937, let's just call it, and just again, guys, I'm just theory crafting for you here. I'd probably leave an ask there with maybe like a wide stop, right? Maybe something above 2K. And then again, I really would be targeting all the way down here. That to me is a short trade I'd like to take if it was presented to me. Just because I see the structure, I see the liquidity right here, right? And I see the top buyers all coming in here. Again, this could also unravel without going up there. But point being is if I got this set up, I will set alerts at 1937. And if we came back up here, right? So alert 1930. Actually, let's call it 1930. If we come above 1930, I'm very curious to see what happens up here. I'd probably leave some naked ass with the stop above 2K just because I'm not expecting range expansion on Bitcoin. So it'd be tough to justify expecting range expansion on ETH. Even with the Shanghai upgrade, buy the rumor, sell the news. If that's like in a week or so, I think people are saying the 13th at some point. That to me is a very clear brain dead short setup in my mind, right? I can clearly define my risk, the 2K, level. We sweep the liquidity. We come up into it, we get back down, and then we're targeting this untested block. That to me is a trade I like to take. Trip, why don't we talk about Lido now? Because I feel like that was a good overview of ETH.
Yeah, and we can take some questions to look at this. But so if I just look at broadly the positioning of the market, like we just squeezed hard on alts, right? And now we're still kind of in this green delta. This is BNB. Like, look at all of these people longing this, and look at this, right? So like if you do get a market sell-off, and we know CZ's running out of his fund, right? Or people are watching those dollars. Like this could be an interesting one. I feel like if we just kind of go through like some of these, like let's look at Doge, right? Like
Doge was interesting, dude. I took that shirt while I was with my mom last night. It was very funny. I saw across the dollar mark or the 10-cent mark, and it just seemed like such a brain dead short. Just because, man, like the liquidity on that, I'm sure is going to surprise people, right? Yeah, look at that.
Right. So here, this is like why I always talk about extended red deltas and extended green deltas. Okay, well here, boom. Now we're resetting. We're building shorts. Bam. This was an insane move because of, Elon. Like it came down a lot. And now you're kind of building more long liquidity here. 539 million in longs. Like, can I come up here and, hit some of these? Yeah, but like this is like a pretty big gap here in liquidity. And we can look at like just on a less granular setting. So you can see kind of the big pockets of liquidity, which is sometimes helpful because price definitely does go for those larger clusters. Well, here they all are. Like this is where the liquidity is on Doge right now.
Doge. And how long or how sustainable are Elon tweet pumps, right? I think someone did some analysis on that as well. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Avax. Someone wanted me to look at Avax. All right, we'll look at most.
And again, guys, feel free to drop any questions. It can be anything related to alts, trading questions, trading psychology, setups, et cetera, et cetera. We're really happy to just kind of have it be an open Q&A for you guys. I'm kind of doing my analysis as Trip's kind of going through it.
So here's another one. Someone asked about Avax. Okay, there's 600.
That's still Doge. That's still Doge.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it didn't upload.
Yeah.
I haven't really looked at Avax, but I know that
Barcelona is in May, right?
Okay, so this one is interesting because, yeah, let's go. Distribution, build shorts, continuing to build a delta down here. So 57 million. Now you're getting to 4.6. If this spikes up into this stuff, into basically what you were talking about, I would probably short it because long. These people, like, we haven't hit this liquidity. We haven't hit this liquidity. So the best way to trap people is run it from red to green. You get all these people chase it. And it could take a while for things to distribute, like in these types of deltas where you get a reversal, just because like down here you had to build shorts. But if this goes like up a lot and this spikes green and it gets back to maybe 35 million in longs, like that is a high probability scalp short to me, because if you see longs chase it up and you're coming into a delta reversal, like this is how Lido's been trading, then it's a high probability setup. And like when I go into these trades, I don't like short everything at once. It's also low leverage, and I look at deploying 25% of position at one liquidity cluster, because it tends to kind of do this up here, and I'll go in and out of the trade. But I will know that like that predominantly these levels around like whatever 17.8 were very distributive.
Yeah, if you notice also just looking at that chart, Trip, I feel like we just ran that last 100x right there, right before the actual breakdown from that distribution range. Like if you look directly to the left at like 17.7-ish, that last red circle.
Over here?
Yeah, right, slightly right more. Like right before we broke down and made the right there. Yeah, see that right next to it. That like we just ran that last short. Oh, to the right of it, right next to it. Next to it, right? Yeah, right there. Yeah, that one. Yep, that circle. We just ran that last circle right before the breakdown. So, and someone just asked, Avax BTC just swept the June's low. Does that play a role in your TA, or not something you care about? No, it's definitely something I care about. You know, if you want to trade alts, you want to look at their alt BTC pairs because you're trying to find higher beta plays. So if you don't take a look at the alt BTC chart, you don't really know how it is in relation to Bitcoin, right? So the fact that you said it just swept, I didn't know it swept the June's low. That tells me that Avax is weak. And the fact that we just ran that last lick before the distribution, that's actually almost like an interesting short setup if Bitcoin
right here
down. Yep.
Right here, like immediate liquidity overpriced, 1765. This is a big lick. This is a big lick. These, in no question in my mind, are going to get hit. So you can switch granularity and then look at like less noise. This is already green, but it's only 2 million. But let's say ETH starts to run those longs that we talked about, then I don't think Avax is going to be immune to a drop like that. I think that's no, we can look at it. We can look at it a little closer here. Yeah, so here's a long, here's a long, here's a long, here's a long. Okay, so what short? Nope. This was the last short, 17.4. And so that liquidated at, well, I mean, we could go look for the 4.5.
It just seems like very small amounts of liquidity there where we kind of have larger pockets lower. Right? Like that's
this, all this in theory should get hit. Takes this low, then you might have shorts come in chasing it down, which is typically what's been happening with a lot of things. But yeah, I mean, interesting example, whoever brought up Avax. Let's just go down the list. See, what are some ones that we have looked at in the past? FTM?
Phantom, yeah. It's been a good one to trade. It's been pretty volatile both directions. That's pretty evenly split, to be honest. I don't see anything glaring sticking out to me.
And so to my point is that when like there is not everything's going up at once or not everything's going down, it's just predatory environment going from coin to coin. So find the coins that have green deltas or red. Not everything's going to look the same, just like BTC and ETH don't look the same right now. Like one is short, one is long. So you're going to see instances like this. Now you just basically took out this long, but your next bit of liquidity has to at least come to here. So if it ran those highs, but I wouldn't short this just because my own system, like I don't like shorting red deltas. There's 19 million in shorts. So is this high ripe? Like, is this whole region ripe where it can come into this, right? This is a big one right here, or maybe this one. Then you maybe start to get a delta flip. But again, if we look at like this example, like, you know, that distribution can occur and may take some time. So when you're trading these things, like you don't need to deploy everything all at once, right?
Yep.
I'm early to this stuff a lot. And if I start to see shorts come in, I'll close out like some of my position and re-enter higher, or I'll just say, this looks to be, you know, have a little more time in the distribution. That can take some time. Like, I don't know what these coins are doing right now. Yeah, like Lido to me, like this whole kind of region, 58, 59, like I'm in from 56, right? It looks distributive because, and we can look at
Looks
why.
just identical to ETH structure, just looking at that hourly chart.
Yeah.
While you're looking at that, someone
Right
just
there.
asked, why do you guys care about the short licks when there's more liquidity in long stops and licks? And long stops and licks. Well, the
I
reason
trade
being,
both
Doc
sides.
Roach, is you trade both sides, but not even that. Understanding where the short liquidations are, if you do have a bearish bias, it helps you define your risk more clearly, right? So there's a big difference between getting into a trade early and sitting in it, right? So like your threshold for pain is directly correlated to your chance for success. How much pain you can actually sit in a position. But, you know, if you want to be a better trader, you look to execute where you see that pain point reversal, right? So if we see the short licks are slightly higher and we're maybe not positioned yet and we want to get short, but we just don't know where, we wait for that last seller to come in and get blown out before we kind of jump in and kind of try to take over. So I did that actually on SXP the other day, I think it was, where it blew out all the shorts. There was like one short left in the market. It was at like 80 cents or whatever it was. And then you just slap that back down, because what we're trying to do with liquidity, guys, is take high probability trades and basically take where we can kind of define risk clearly so our execution can be tighter. The tighter our execution is, larger the position size, right? So with larger the position size, the more upside or downside potentially. So that's kind of why liquidity is so key, especially when we're in a range. Yeah, continue, Trip.
Yeah. So example of like, I long 232 publicly on Lido, and I traded it up to like 240 and I sold it because I wasn't sure we were going to get this lick right here. But this to me was this is like a 2 million cluster. So bubble size is relative to position size. So, you know, I sold it on this one because I typically trade the 25 to or you know, the 50x to 100x because they're high probability. These guys are not always going to get hit, just as you see kind of these big ones up here. But if you were to drop, you know, granularity to see, I shorted this publicly. It's all in the Telegram, it's all on Twitter, because this was like, this is an exhaustion point on liquidity, and the delta had flipped green. And then once I think I closed 239 because there was like a 100x short long down there. We can go look at that. And yeah, where was it? I closed around here because it hit these longs. Can it go lower? Yeah, but I'm getting like the bulk of the trade and trading basically the plan. And then sure enough, your delta goes red. I woke up this morning and where was price? Like 257. And now look at this. And you're telling me based on patterns that this isn't going to happen, where these guys are all going to get rinsed? Like
Yep.
this is this is going to absolutely rinse people. And I expect it to come down into like 240s easily. Unless there's shorts chasing this all the way down. This is 42 million in longs on Lido right now. So back to the guy's point, like, I'm not always looking for shorts. I'm not always looking for longs. Here's liquidity, 249. This is a big one, 247. Wait for this to flip, change the position, rinse and repeat. You can make a lot of money by doing these types of trades. And if you can do these in like an hour or two, you're extracting value from the market in a quick manner, and then you're waiting for the next setup. People ask me why I trade a couple coins, because I understand the liquidity and how the market making is working on this. And I'm sure there's plenty of other instances. So I'll stick to this until it doesn't work. But right now, like I had tweeted, my trading strategy is to find extended green deltas and short them, and buy extended red deltas and wait for the reversals and then do that. So you can do it on ETH too. If ETH starts to run those longs and flips red and it's going into some key licks, like let's just look at like where that might be. Let's step back and just look at some of these larger clusters. Okay, so here's, no, this is still Lido, sorry. But you just saw that it was 10 longs to 0 shorts on a higher granularity setting. Yeah, I mean, this is not ever something I want to long.
4 billion.
Because it seems inevitable that you're at least going to come down to 1839 at this point.
Yep.
And near term, where's your liquidity going to come from? It has to take out these highs, and look who is all longing.
Buying the top.
Green circles. You liquidated this short, which was 11.5. And where was he? Like probably somewhere in here. I mean, these are big liquidations up here. I don't know. Maybe it was this one, right? The point is you spiked up, and for you to gather any more short liquidity, you have to trade these highs, and it seems overextended. So bearish ETH right now. I mean, yeah, Bitcoin can push up, but Lido has a bunch of longs, so it's kind of
but what if Bitcoin doesn't push up? What if it just starts nuking from here, right? You have to think about the unraveling. Everyone who's trading alts right now, I think there's a huge, and I haven't traded alts in at least a couple of days, if not longer, just because the clear read to me right now is Bitcoin. If I know, or if I feel like I have an idea of what Bitcoin's going to do, I can then position myself to trade alts, right? And I just talked about, I don't want to diddle in the middle. I want to be a seller above 28.5, and I want to be a buyer below 27.2. So until either of those two triggers happen for me, I'm not really interested in trading alts right now, because for me, it's a coin flip. ISO has his strategy, and he has a system around Lido. It's a coin he's traded with very high precision, and that's something he understands, right? So when you understand an asset, how it trades up and down, you stick to it. For me, who's someone who's not like an alt player in general, I prefer to trade the large caps, mostly Bitcoin and Ethereum. When I don't have a clear trigger, and if I know I want to get long lower or short from higher, I'm just going to sit out. And I think that's so important, guys. And I'm going to take a second to kind of harp on that is, as a trader, your one job is to make money. And if you feel like you don't have a clear read in the markets, whether it's to go long or short, and you just don't know, then just don't take a trade, right? Sitting in cash is sometimes, not even sometimes, oftentimes the only position you should be in. You should only take positions when you have strong conviction in one way or another. If you're just taking positions, that's the crux of overtrading, right? You just need to be in a position constantly. Once you outline your triggers and you have a plan for trading, then you wait for those triggers to happen, and then you execute. You execute without hesitation. But to just take a position because, hey, Bitcoin looks decent, or ETH looks bearish, whatever the case is, you need to have a strategy and then stick to that plan. Plan it out. I just said above 28.5, I want to get short. Below 27.2, I want to get long. Until those two things happen, I'm sitting on my hands. And I think that's so important to stress to you guys, because all you can do in this market is try to extract meaningful edge. And by just punting positions left and right without having a clear edge, which I don't think I have right now until those triggers are met, I'm just going to sit out. So yeah, I think that's just one thing I wanted to harp on. Go for a trip.
Yeah, I mean, my plan was long Lido 231 or short it above 254 highs. So, like, just following the plan. Is it going to work every time? No, that's part of the game.
Absolutely.
So ETH's interesting because I had a 4-hour 9. Stoke Cross could be coming down. So these are,
Yeah, I'm looking at the 4 hour. Do you see? I see the buyer exhaustion as well. On that previous 4 hour, the yellow. I'm just so bearish on ETH from here. All I see it doing is it ran all the top shorters. They puked their position, but who's really left to buy here? It's perps. It's leveraged perpetual swap buyers. Your friendly neighborhood retail traders who are buying at these levels. I don't see this as range expansion. I just don't. We would have had a much more violent move, and we would have seen more sustained buying. All I'm seeing is rising volume, more sell volume than buy volume, and it's really perps pushing it up, not spot here.
Yeah. Someone asked me to look at ARB when SZ was talking about shorting ARB and everyone was talking about shorting ARB, and I looked at this. Like, yes, it can go down with this, but this is never something that I want to short. Talk about sustained red delta. Like, this is a significant amount of shorts. Now it's starting to come off, but like, can you get like a crazy candle up into like these? Yeah. So I would wait for this to flip green. I wouldn't necessarily buy it here, but again, looking at nearest liquidity, like, okay, you got to take out these lows, but look at how close price is to all this liquidity. So this goes back to where like proximity of price to liquidity is a big thing for me. If it takes out these highs, then like you're coming into this zone basically, and that's probably going to get you a delta flip. But like, again, this isn't like a anything that I would want to try to trade like right now, but it's not something I want to try to short. It's not necessarily something I want to try to long. So hopefully that's somewhat helpful to whoever wanted to know about ARB. I think the next one was OP. Guys, I'll go through all these alts just because my technical difficulties were such a disaster. But here, we'll look at OP. I haven't looked at this one in a bit. Liquidity really dried up in this thing. It was there for a while.
After the Coinbase announcement, the whatever it was, the layer 2 Coinbase thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you had the extremes down here, 100 million. It looks like it's actually being bought up. And now you're coming into, all right, so you've almost taken off half of the shorts. It's still not something that I would want to try to short because like there's 136 shorts to 53 longs. I'd rather see 53 shorts to 136 longs. So again, is it going to like kind of take out these highs up here? Potentially, similar to kind of what Lido did on those 250s. And that had been a first mover. So you get rotation of stuff. And so like when one coin ripped pretty hard, it sells off and then maybe OP is going to go. And that's like, again, that's just like the market we're in right now. Nothing's trending. Nothing is doing anything significant. What were some of the other ones that XRP? We can look at XRP. Hasn't this one been a crazy one to trade?
Yeah, it's because of the SEC stuff. It's been moving very nicely. But, I think that's also one of the 4 horsemen of the impending crypto apocalypse in my mind, right? It's just whenever I see Doge and XRP pump, I just have this gut feeling that, the end is near. It's never a good sign when Bitcoin is not leading the rally. But yeah, I'll look at that red delta.
Yeah, so this one, 240 million shorts. I mean, 56 to 18. I don't know. I've never known how to trade this coin. But again, like,
what's that top lick right there? That blue on the right.
This?
No, on the right. The smaller one. The smaller. Yeah.
51 cents. That would be a big one. Probably.
Yeah, I can see that from the daily perspective.
Yeah, so here, let's say you take this, then you really got to hit here, but there's not that many longs. Like this is a weird coin from a liquidity standpoint. It seems actually pretty thinly traded relative to how much volume is in this thing, because I think this trades like a lot of volume. So I don't know. I don't really have, if it doesn't excite me, or if I don't like really see anything that's like, okay, high probability setup, I move on.
Yep.
I look for something else. I'm not going to force a trade.
Yep.
So I think someone asked, oh, Matic. We can look at Matic because this is always a fun one.
It's a great coin to trade both ways. I mostly short it, but yeah.
There's been some really good longs on these coins because like everyone's short the thing. And okay, here. All right, 54 to 255. Very interesting. Nearest liquidity.
I might have to market short it. I'm just kidding, guys.
Nearest liquidity, you got to run it to 115. These are based. Okay, so this 114, that would lick up here, 50x. Look at how close it is to this though, and look at how many longs there are. 167 million relative to any kind of past delta. Like, it didn't take a lot to liquidate these people on the short side, but as you start to build this, okay, yeah, I'd be looking to short Matic probably on any spike, or even just putting it here with like a stop above here, because there's nothing near term. Like, this is the closest liquidity. So if ETH sells off, Matic probably should take a hit. Were there any other ones that people want? LQTY, that doesn't have liquidity. Sorry, I've looked at that. SXP, is that on here? Oh, it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that one's been a good one. That's where I saw it was like 5 to 1,500, some wild number
for the ratio.
Yeah, that's why I shorted it 2 days ago.
I mean, 303 to 41. Holy cow! What does this thing do?
No one knows. It's the future of finance, and it cured cancer.
715 million in longs. So up here, wow, 1.27 billion. So it came up here, took out liquidity, dropped. So maybe this is almost like something that you look for as like the $1 billion like magic number. We can drop it to see what.
I mean, SXP, that's just also like a parabolic run, right? And it's like when parabolas break, they tend to retrace up to 80% of the origin. It's a long way down, 80% from the top, I'll say that.
I guess any spike up here, I would short. But like right now, it's not as clear to me, even though there's a big ratio. But I would have to look at like the stuff 52 skew looks at and see like, is this predominantly spot buying versus any sort of perp buying? Because that's going to influence a lot of like how price moves as well. But yeah, I mean, you could take this. I don't know. There are a lot of longs though, I will admit, but maybe you get back.
I think the key to get across is that
then
you need to wait for Bitcoin to make its move. We're losing Trip a little bit there. I think you're lagging, brother.
Bill?
I think you're lagging a little bit, brother. You guys hear him in the chat? Back in McDonald's, yeah. Unfortunately, it sounds like you're still lagging there. We lost Trip again. Apologies, guys. It's been a day, but let me get back to just looking at SXP just to go over it real quick. You know, parabolic moves, when they retrace, they really tend to dump. So we're just looking at SXP. You know, when parabolas break, right? So it has parabolic move, first base, parabolic move, second base, parabolic move, third base, blow off top. I'm not going to call the top on this parabola, but it does seem to be very exhausted. So Trip, you there, brother? He's coming back in.
Yeah, I don't know if it's any better.
Yeah, you sound better.
Probably
Just
not
to
any
go
better.
over this SXP, we just looked at the licks there. So if it comes back and sweeps this high and it's kind of distributing, this would be interesting, right? Sweeps the licks and then starts heading lower. But again, guys, like you really need to keep Bitcoin in mind. Like when Bitcoin has its move and it hits the levels that I'm looking for a trigger, if it goes higher first, I'm looking for altcoin shorts. If it goes lower first, I'm looking for altcoin longs. That's really the best way that I've learned to play this game, is to just be patient, guys. Sitting in cash and just being flat, not having a position, removes that objective or that subjective bias that you guys all have when you're trying to look for a position just because you want to be in one, right? On my SXP high block chart, there are 303 longs and 41 shorts. That's because you probably are on the most granular setting, Anel. So depending on the granularity, it'll actually change. Let's take a look at SXP while Trip gets his self shorted there. Share this tab.
I would look at Sushi next because that is ripe with longs.
So yeah, to your point, now 41 to 303 with the most granular, and then as you zoom it out, it changes obviously. So, but again, like there is liquidity up here. If we did get a move back, and again, I would like to zoom in to kind of get a look at what we're looking like right here, right? So I see a lot of liquidity. This bubble, this 50x bubble to me is like an SR flip of whatever the other side of this range was. So what is this? 91.38. So if we go back to the chart, 91.38, guess where that lines up to, right? So 91.38, I think it's probably the open of this candle. Or no, a little higher than that. But it would be a retest, right? So if we zoom in of right here, where is that? Further back. Yeah. Oh, there. Okay, it's underside of this. Yeah. So 91.38 is like right about there. So we would come back and retest this high, the underside of it right here. That's interesting. If we came all the way back to 91.38 and we tap that last 50x, that would be a place I'd potentially look to get short, right? So I wouldn't necessarily leave a naked ass there, but if we came back up into it and we rejected and then started heading lower, I'd know where to put my stop, because what could end up happening, right? It comes up into it, it sweeps it and just goes straight up and makes a higher high. I don't want to get involved here and get blown out right above here. So what I want to see is I'll set an alert at 91.38, and once we kind of get to this level, I'll gauge the reaction. If we come up into it and start coming down, I'll say, okay, that was a rejection. Where do I want to get in? Maybe it's at just below 90 cents. I'll say, okay, it's, I'll just call it 88 cents, whatever the case is. I like the rejection. I'm not going to bank my whole trade on it. So I'll use this high. I'll top pick, right? I'll say this is my high, and I'm targeting for a sweep of these equal lows or whatever, or somewhere down here for like an SR flip. That to me is a setup I'd look for on SXP. But again, for me, it all relates back to Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin is still chilling at 2,200 by the time SXP gets here, I'm going to sit on my hands, just because it doesn't make a lot of sense to try to punt a trade one way or another without having confirmation from Bitcoin. Sushi Trip, go for it.
Yeah, so can you hear me all right?
Yeah, you're good.
So here's a good example of like something that looks attractive on the short side, where you got a delta reversal. You have a pretty good ratio of longs to shorts. Your nearest liquidity is $1.15. I mean, if it starts to get up here, it seems like a very high probability short, but this looks ripe for the taking. A lot of this looks ripe for the taking. I haven't really pulled up a Sushi chart, but if we're just, so okay, maybe you get this 115 here. I mean, this would be 116, but I would just say that like the longs look offsides on Sushi at the moment. So if anyone's in Sushi, this is something to be cognizant of. Now, you did have two shorts come in, 114, 114.3. So if you go to 0.07, or maybe, which one was it? I guess that's 0.08, 0.07. Where's this one from? Or did it already hit it?
It looks like it hit that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So 0.07 right here. That's where that 50x short liquidates. This one, 0.08, right there, 115. So maybe you're getting the move into these two at 115. And if longs chase it up, right, then it would be more likely that they come down to take this. Like, you could get a pretty tight setup if you clipped this and put your stop above this and not risk that much. And again, like, maybe you just do a portion of your position here and you actually are targeting these, but you're not sure if it's going to go up there. This is how it becomes like very like manual for me. And if I see longs coming in on this move up, then I know it's probably likely that they're going to come back down here. But if shorts are coming in like here, then it's more likely that you might take some of these licks up here. But positioning wise, longs look like they're in a position to get taken out versus shorts. And this stems back to like literally every time we talk about liquidity and how I look at these coins. So what was some other ones? We already looked at our Atom. Have you looked at that recently?
No, I haven't. I think Howie was looking at it in Crypto Insiders.
All right, let's look at Atom.
970.
All right, so not attractive to me. I mean, yes, this isn't a ton of shorts because it was probably 50 million now to 16, but short, like from this to this, like there's not like immediate liquidity on either side really. So this is a coin flip on which way the price can go.
Yep.
If you're starting to get up into like these, let's look at it less granular. See if there's any bigger bubbles. Yeah, so 1111, it's 50x long. 1143, it's 50x short. So it's like you're guessing on which way this is going to go. So I just wouldn't play this until either the delta shows me something else, and I'm looking at a chart, or they run a bunch of longs or they run a bunch of shorts. So Atom, I would just look at which way they're going to spike this and like, is it just going to chop around? Which is going to be largely dependent on probably what Bitcoin does, as Zorn was saying. That's why he's not trading any altcoins. So
although SXP looked pretty good, I was just looking at that chart, I will say. I'm not going to punt it, but I can see it running that lick very soon.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about some of these are like they have pretty red deltas and Bitcoin dominance. If you look at that, like people are talking about that coming into resistance, like, but then there's some altcoins that have like pretty green deltas. So are they outliers on the short side? Like, I don't know. It's not entirely clear. So I just defer to positioning. Like this one, again, like you can kind of go either way on FTM. 19 million in shorts relative to 65 million. So you are starting to take these shorts out. But like for me to take a trade here, like, well, this is probably pretty like these clusters up here, maybe maybe that's where you start to get a delta flip and longs are a little offsides. But
if
it's not clear, I just won't trade it. Were the other ones? File. This one's always been an interesting one. Yeah. So 57 million in shorts. This looks ripe. There's more shorts than longs. I need to like see some of this get taken before I would even try to long it probably, but again, I'm not going to short it if it looks like this. So
Yep.
I think the message is pretty much the same for a lot of these when I look at it, which is like I've always talked about having a check, like a system of just like here are the checkpoints that you look at, and so
Yep.
I'll just continue to do that until we have a deciding move in Bitcoin and Ethereum out of the range. Otherwise, just run the liquidity up and down and keep stacking your trades.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I think it's a good place to leave off. We talked about a lot of interesting things today, guys. We talked about trigger points for Bitcoin. We talked about a few alt setups. We kind of got into the different ways we're looking at position depending on which way Bitcoin goes, right? But I think one overarching point I want to leave you guys with is the ability to set a trade plan in place and from there really wait for those triggers to occur are probably your best bet to have the highest probability trades without actually, committing capital to just faulty trades, right? So over trading is, in my mind, when you're just trading without a plan, just to trade. But if you're in the zone in the flow state and you're saying, okay, well, prices met my conditions, I see the potential for this to trend this way or that way, and then I'm trading that. So having a plan in place is so key. And I think that's the one thing I want to leave you guys with today is that set your plan and then follow it, right? So it's plan the trade, trade the plan. I just gave you my plan for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin hits any of those conditions, I'll look to get into altcoins. Until then, I'm just chilling, guys. So with that said, guys, it's been an awesome episode. We've had a lot of fun today. And with that, yeah, I think we're going to thank our sponsor, Phemex, one more time. And we'll see you next week, guys. Captain Cole signing out.